All right, David, if you could give a quick little introduction on yourself and just why you reached out in the first place.
Yeah, I'm David Meisensall. I'm 25 years old, going through a career in finance, and I reached out because I found myself in a period where I started kind of hating myself, putting too much pressure on myself, and falling behind, and then stacking everything in front of me, and then finding myself not taking any just small steps, and this kept compounding into a point where I was not being who I really wanted to be. It started out to be daily, then it was hour by hour, and it got to a point where I almost reached a breaking point and just randomly reached out to anything, and happened to get you on Instagram. Saw it, loved what you were doing, and you were real and authentic, and randomly where you were like, hey, you still with me? After I just like life dumped onto you, and you and then I was just all over the place. So you're like, hey, you still with me? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been, a couple days, and I'm definitely still with you. Like, I'm just figuring it out. And then I was like, let's just get serious, and let's go forward.
At that exact point in time, what was kind of running through your head on a daily basis?
On a daily basis, at that point in time, I was just playing catch up. I was being a reactive person towards everything, not getting into work when I should have been, not going to bed when I should have been, not going to the gym when I should have been, not eating right what I should have been, drinking too much, doing the things that I don't like, that I'm disgusted by. And that was happening, and it started to become redundant, and I was trying to like escape myself, to a point where I just broke down.
Can you kind of walk me through what that breakdown really felt like?
I've had a couple in my past, and it was never as bad as it was, but I didn't want it to get to that point. So I took everything out of my life. I like literally left home, got a hotel room, and just started journaling and trying to figure things out, just trying to escape, get away from my environment. And I had no one to talk to, no one to explain. I didn't want to tell anybody in my personal life. Just trying to uphold that I'm doing well. And that's when that thought of, hey, I'm going to just fall into this fog and just repeat the motions the rest of my life if I don't change something now. And putting too much pressure on myself and trying to change it myself was just too much.
So kind of walk me through a little bit of how your current work life was before you reached out to me.
At that time, it was a fake confidence where I was pretending and had a massive ego, where I wouldn't prep before meetings. I would just walk in blindly, be stupid, cocky, and confident, and would uphold this like fake figure, where then it shifted to a point where I was living and breathing, walking the talk, and doing what I was supposed to be doing, and it just became effortlessly. I didn't have to think about what I was doing. It just came before I was doing, and then I just do it, and it would be done. So
I love that. And would you consider that, you've probably heard of it, and I'm pretty sure we've talked about this as well, but would you consider that more so a flow state that happened just daily?
Yeah, that was where I reached flow state, and I remember I was in that years back, and I remember I touched on that to tell you, and I was like, how come I'm not in that anymore? Like, what am I doing wrong? And I think that's where I was just stacking too much to be perfect, and then I would have these like binge days where I would just be like, oh my gosh, it's way too hard to wake up at minute by minute and do everything minute by minute and take all these supplements and do all this and do all that and be perfect. And then one thing comes in and it just snaps. And then you do one thing wrong for 1 hour of your day. And then it turned into just doing it for months. And then it got to where it was almost 6 months. And I just couldn't get myself back because I felt that the next day, in order to get myself back, I had to wake up at 6 a.m. and then do my ritual and then do my routine and then hit the gym. It was just all too much. I was like, I got to start back over from zero in order to get back into the flow state.
Do you think a big part of your issue before you reached out to me was overcomplicating things, because a lot of people that reach out to me, their main concern, or the main thing that they feel is holding them back, is that they're overwhelmed with options with their routine, and because they have a big problem, they're trying to throw everything at it to solve it. But in reality, do you think one thing that you learned along the way was simplifying things was pretty much the only way to get back to your previous flow state?
Yeah, completely. Because one thing I noticed when you're in flow state is you don't talk about what you're doing, you just do it. And I would find myself getting so complicated where I would measure the amount of water that I would intake on a Monday and put it in my hydrogen $200 water bottle. But then on Friday, I would find myself binge drinking. And because I was so hungover the next day, door dashing and spending $100 that I didn't mean to do. And then I'm like, who am I? Where I'm now doing this hydrogen water on Monday and then binge drinking on a Friday. And then on a Tuesday, I'm telling somebody that's around me my exact routine and how I'm doing this and how I'm doing that. When in reality, if I just kept it simple and did like the 80-20 method of just life in general, I wouldn't be talking about it. I'd just be doing it, and people would just see it through my actions, and I wouldn't. It'd just be effortless.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that's also something that, I mean, we kind of mentioned this before when we were going through everything, but that's also something that I dealt with for a very long time, where if I had a huge problem, I would throw everything at it, try to overcomplicate it. And I would realize that I was further apart from my goal from when I actually started. And the only way that I was actually able to make a lot of progress was when I was able to simplify things to the point where I wouldn't even necessarily think about it anymore. And then everything just flows. Opportunities come at you, which we'll mention in a second as well, more so on the work or finance side. But
Yeah.
so,
And then one
go
more
ahead.
thing just to add in on that is that when I first thought of what we were going to do, in my head, I was like, on day one, I was like, well, this person is definitely has life figured out, and he's got it going on for himself. He's going to hold me accountable, and he's probably going to give me so many things where, as long as I just do exactly what he's saying, I'm going to figure it out. And it was the complete opposite of that. And it was just so blissful and so peaceful. And there was a lot of stress that just came right over me. How when you were immediately like, whoa, we're going to take this like one day at a time. And then you built it where I didn't have to need you thereafter. And I think by like month 1 or 2, I was like, oh my God, I'm doing it myself. I don't even need someone to hold me accountable. And I don't need all these crazy steps. Like, it just kind of filled in itself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just love that part as well, because like I said before, that's something that I used to deal with before, and pretty much everybody that reaches out to me thinks that the systems that I'm going to implement for them are going to be very, very discipline rooted, very hustle culture. And
Yeah.
it's the complete opposite. And it's exactly what they actually ended up needing.
Yeah. You taught me more psychologically than anything else in my life, and kind of rewired the way that I thought, and got back to how I used to think, and then added on top. So it was very, very nice to kind of just keep building that mindset and not having to just go through pure willpower, discipline, even though those are obviously needed, but just the mindset on top, just being positive in itself,
Yeah.
and more of like pull motivation than push motivation.
So before you reached out to me, what were you currently trying, and what have you already tried before to kind of get back to that old version of yourself that was very productive?
I would use self-hatred. I would like punish myself in a way if I say went on a bender that weekend and ruined my Monday and Tuesday. I would punish myself by going to the gym longer and being on a strict diet for the next 2 days. And then I would quickly just snap right back out of it. And I would then reward myself for another weekend. And it was just very, very just being like relentless to myself. And I'd find myself doing things that I was like making myself do that I didn't like. And in the moment, I'd be aware of doing it. It kind of makes me think of like people that, are in a situation where, I don't really want to say like cutting yourself to a point, but
Hmm.
like that's kind of like where, like, I can kind of like recognize where people can get to that point,
Hmm.
of like they know to not do that, but then they're doing it anyways. And mostly that for me was, not showing up to where I needed to be for work, or over drinking on the weekend, or lying to how well I'm doing.
Hmm.
And it's just stuff that I didn't want to do, but I wasn't being honest with myself. And that pissed me off. And it pissed me off to a point where I just tried to escape more. And then and it's just so far you can escape from yourself with just wanting to snap and get out of it. So that brings me right back to the time where it's like, let's get out of my environment, let's go somewhere, and then just the way the universe worked, reached out to you and then kicked it off.
Yeah, and it's an amazing story too. Definitely had a lot of moments that a lot of people deal with, and this is another big thing where a lot of people currently are dealing with this, but they feel so alone and so isolated, and they feel like they're the only person in the world that's going through this at the time, so they don't have the willpower necessarily to reach out to anyone for it, because they think that this is solely a them thing, a personal thing, that they're the only person that this has ever happened to. And the reality of it, it's simply not true. If you're ambitious to an extent and if you expect a lot from yourself, then these are practically givens that you're going to have to go through and find a way out of this hurdle.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree.
And that's also another big thing, is kind of just like realizing that other people have gone through this, and there are certain things that you can do that will help a lot with it.
Yeah. I mean, it would definitely hurt when I knew what I was doing was wrong,
Hmm.
and I just do it anyways because I didn't want to do what I wanted to do that was correct. Kind of like lost the passion. And I was like, oh, there's no one to reach out to. And it's not true. Ultimately, there's always people to reach out to, and then to get you right back on track. And definitely wouldn't have been able to do it without someone, because just for myself alone, I just get stuck in those thoughts and not have anything to snap you out of it. And that's like, like a life event comes through. You get in a car crash or you do something and you kind of snap out of it. But you don't
Hmm.
need to have a complete negative to snap out of something. It can just be reaching out and having that conversation that could be tough.
When did you realize what the actual problem was? Not really the version that you came with, but in totality, like when did you realize what the exact problem that you were dealing with was?
I would say I recognized it within the first week, just based off of your energy, being calm, being controlled, pausing before you'd speak, listening entirely, and then backing it up with something that you read or knew, not projecting your life onto me, not telling me to do better, just supporting me, being positive, and just rewiring, just like your thought patterns and your mindset. And I was like, whoa, this is not what I expected. This is like 100 times better. I expected to go through a military boot camp and I was going to prove you wrong, and I was going to
Hmm.
go as hard as I can. And then if I did that, then if I proved you wrong, then I would become out a better person on the other side. But if that was true, on day 91 out of our 90 days, I would be saying, "Oh, he's gone now. I can start living a fake life again, and pretend like you're not there." And hindsight, I know that now, but at that time, I wouldn't have known that, and that's probably what would have happened. But week one just took it slow, and controlled. And my honest thought was like, even if I have to tell some fibs and lie about what I'm doing, I'll do it just to prove him that I'm doing it well. And didn't have to do any of that because it was just so simple and so calm. And you jumped on the pace that I was pacing myself at. And I told myself, I was like, I remember driving in a car and I was like, whoa, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to ruin the entire experience if I even attempt to do that and fall back on pretending doing this. Like, what the hell am I thinking? So I was like, I'm just going to be dead truthful, honest. And I never had to once feel that I had to hide something that was going wrong or I was doing that I didn't like. And then you just completely shifted the way I thought, really off the bat. And then it just went from there and then just kept adding on to it. And I'm pretty sure if everything came in at once, I would have been a little bit overwhelmed, but you just did it step by step by step. It was almost like a fun game in a way where I was just like not expecting what was next. And it just more fun came out of it. And I was like looking forward to our Sunday calls. I was looking forward to the gym and seeing if I can get a PR on my first set and texting you on the app saying, yo, I just hit another PR, just getting stronger. And it did. And it was enjoyable. And I told nobody in my life that I was doing it because I didn't want to take away that magic that you had going during the entire journey. And then thereafter, I was like, I'm in a flow state. I don't even need to tell anybody. And it was kind of just like a really cool realization where it's just life. Just continue. There's nothing to be talked about. Just keep going.
Yeah, and that's the exact goal. So, what part of the plan was your favorite, or what kind of realization did you have after the first week that kind of just gave you a little shift in your head?
Yeah, this one's really easy. I was always big on working out. Why? Because I was like, you need a strong figure. You need to, be good to yourself. You want to be lean. You want to be muscular. And so I started working out when I was 17, 18, 19, all the way up until through college. But I was beating myself up. I was going 5 to 6 days a week for many, many months, then take many, many months off, then jump back into it and do 7 days a week and be in there for an hour to 2 hours. And when I did like the gym, I was loving it. But then I would start hating it because my life would get more busy and I couldn't be able to do it as much. And I was being overcomplicated for working out. And then I would find myself in periods where I wouldn't work out at all. And that was one of the periods that I was currently in when I first reached out. And it was like 3 months since I haven't worked out. And I dreaded even touching a weight. And I knew I had to. But like that thought, that mental block was just like, this is so hard because this means that I have to go now for 5 to 6 days out of the week for 1 to 2 hours. And I'm going to hate it. I don't even want to start. I'll start tomorrow. And what you reframed for working out has blown my entire world apart. And I still use it and I'm going to keep using it. And it's just incredible where you made me in the gym 20 to 30 minutes a day. And it was really fun, got through it easy, stupid simple. Didn't have to think about it. Started flowing through it. Memorizing everything, and with the reverse pyramid training really threw me off. I was like, whoa, this is completely a different way. I've never trained before. So I had to look it up and I had to research and know about it. And I was like, what have I been doing the past 6, 7 years of my life where I wasn't doing this? And I was like, I've just been in this groove where I was not looking and stopping and saying, what am I doing and what can I change? I was just in this groove and never getting out of it. So you bringing that up and putting that into the plan, that was by far the most favorite and best part of it. Just reshaping the way I was working out. And now I am stronger. I am leaner. I enjoy the gym. I barely in there and don't ever dread going. And it's just part of a daily habit. And when I'm exhausted and overreached, don't have to go in there, and I'm not hating myself that I didn't go because I'm purposely recovering. I'm purposely getting ready for the next day, and just taking a way smarter approach toward it than just being grunt and being like being like a bodybuilder. So that was by far the favorite part of it.
Yeah, and that's a huge problem that I used to deal with as well when I first started working out. I tried to overcomplicate everything, do the 2-3 hour workouts, and quickly realized that that wasn't really sustainable because I kept falling off. So every time I would take a little bit of a different approach until something finally stuck, and it was that it's really simple. Like once you spend enough time researching a topic, getting really good at anything, absolutely anything, you realize that at the root of it, it's very simple.
Yeah, it is, and it's actually it's sad and it's a shame where I'll be out talking to some friends, and they'll start getting on a plan, and I can tell that they're beating themselves up, and like the way you speak, and if you can figure it out, it's almost like code. It's like a language in itself, and it takes some time to realize it. And I'm sitting there, and like I'll be at lunch with a friend, and I'm just like, they are unfortunately so far away from realizing. And I'm like, if only I could just reach out and just give them that realization. But it's just, it takes time. It takes
Hmm.
time to realize that. And people are at their own pace. And as I would try to explain it to them at first, but it doesn't render. It doesn't work. So it just takes time to recognize, to not beat yourself up, to enjoy yourself going in, take less time, less reps, just stronger, and do your PRs in the beginning, warm up properly so you don't hurt,
Hmm.
uh, all of that. And I trusted, I put all the trust into you, and it paid off. If I said I have an ego, or I was like trying to retaliate and say, well, I'm going to get stronger, I'm going to get better, I'm going to be in there all the time, I'm going to work out longer and all these things, it wouldn't have worked. And I wouldn't have gotten stronger, and I would be in the exact same place that I was. And it's hard to really understand that until you just put the full faith and trust into somebody, and just listen, and then start recognizing that you are getting stronger every single week and exploding on workouts, and excited because you're hitting PRs.
So, at any point, did you ever question what I was putting you through? And how did your belief on what I was putting you through change after you just stuck with it?
No, I didn't question it ever.
Okay.
And I would say the reason why was, you never once ever put your life onto me. You never said, well, I did this one time and that worked. Every single time I would sit there and rant, and you would just listen and listen and listen. And then you would pause and pause. And I'm like, was he listening? And then you would spit out something that you learned from a different third party source from years ago, or maybe current time. And it would just be like a sentence or two. And I'd be like, holy shit. Yeah, you're right. Goddamn. What am I doing? I'm way overthinking this. So it was just, what I would say is that was just wisdom that you were putting into, and like just like that higher vibration, of just understanding, listening, and not coming from your own frame. Just, let's give this person something that, might have learned a long time ago, and you're able to recite it. I think you did that really, really well. And it made it
Thank you.
click. There was no long rants on how to do. You never lost me. I was never lost. I was never, oh my God, I want to turn the camera off. It was just one or two sentences, and it clicked every time. And that really, really helped, because nothing's worse than listening to somebody just spill what they worked for them. And it was listening to them for 5 minutes. And I'm like, I'm not you, so it's not working. So that's what you did not do. So I didn't have to question anything. I was more questioning myself. If anything, I was like, oh my God, I got to go back to the drawing board and relax. So
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you for all that. I try my
then,
best to make everything very simple and credible at the source as well, and not push my experiences and my personal learnings onto new people, because everybody's their own individual and different things take different perspectives.
yeah,
Where do you think you would be now if you hadn't reached out to me?
mm, man, I think I would still be, putting myself through pain motivation, and trying to be very volatile, not in flow state at all. Um, Going through massive emotional swings. It probably would have taken me a lot longer to get out of that rut, 10 times longer. I changed completely overnight. And it was very fun to get into that flow state. And work became easier. Relationships got easier. Connecting to new people got easier. Everything in my life just got easier, within a week or two. And it was very rewarding. I would say.
Give me a bit of a walkthrough on what happened financially when you were working with me. The before, the moment you reached out, and then a few months later.
Yeah, so it was fake confidence. I'd lie for how well I was doing. And I would put up this ego and pretend, and try to be somebody that I wasn't. And I was finding myself ranting during meetings. Just a little bit of context. I help clients out, financially. So nothing's worse than hearing someone rant. And end of the day, it's sales. I would find myself just losing touch with people and not getting follow ups. And then I would find myself in this perpetual system of, what am I doing wrong? What's going on? I'll try harder. I try harder. And anyone that's in sales knows that you try harder, it makes it worse. But when you're in it, you don't know it, even if you already know it, because you're deep into something, into a groove that you're trying to get out of. So ultimately, within a few weeks, it just started changing overnight, where I was like, oh my God, I forgot that I have to value myself, because I'm this incredible human being that's doing this really good daily thing that I really enjoy and love. And I am not my old self, and I forget about the history of any of that. And then I look at people and I'm like, what are you doing? Not judging them, but I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I'm the leader in this situation. I'm the one doing this stuff. Where before I was, being a reactive lifestyle, reacting, going into meetings, not looking them up beforehand, just having fake confidence, being like, oh, I'll just get through it. And then now it's more of just finding myself, just all these new things just manifesting to me, overnight, in a way where, because I'm holding myself up to these standards, and I have to hold the people that I work with up to those standards. And I have to be, ultimately it has to be higher than the people that I work with, so that they can jump up to my vibration. And I've always known about that, like the universal laws and all that stuff. But in that moment, like where I was, I just forgot about it. And then, a couple months in, and I was landing more and more meetings effortlessly, helping people, onboarding people, helping them out, just talking about life in general, and just enjoying the time with them, not thinking about, is this sale going to work out? Am I going to help them? And more of just like, hey, you know what? I'm doing really, really, I'm doing like very well, and I don't even need this, but they need it. So they'll likely, join what I'm doing, and then just ended up happening. And I just kept going, and more, would come in, and I was kind of more of, things were pulling into me, rather than when I was grabbing towards things. I was trying to grab towards things and pull them into me, where then it was opposite. I was, attracting, things to come into effortlessly. And that was a very rewarding, and, it was something that I started being grateful for, and, just helps my vibration, go higher, and, the people will jump to it. So
Yeah, I mean, really, really well said. It's very difficult to break that pattern, especially when you're stuck in it. You know you're in it, but you don't know how to get out of it, and you just throw more things on it to try to get out of it, which just makes your situation worse. And being able to it's kind of pretty much just the law of detachment, but there's a lot of things that you have to do, a lot of steps that you have to do to get there, and a lot of it is subtraction instead of addition. And once you get there, once you realize you're kind of in this flow state, then you as a person become more valuable, and then other people perceive you more valuable, so they automatically attract you, more opportunities flow to you, and at the end of the day, you don't necessarily need it, because you know who you are, which makes them want it even more. So it's kind of like this cycle that just repeats itself over and over again, and once you find it, you don't want to leave it at all.
yeah, speaking of subtracting things, one thing that really helped, me, that you implemented, to me, was the 3-2-1 method, where I would be doing something that I knew wasn't supposed to be doing. And I would just count down 3, 2, 1, stop doing it. Where then you get right back in the flow state, and you get right back to where you were supposed to be doing. Whereas before, never did that. And then you just fall back into a lower vibration and you start reacting, and then it spirals out of control. So that was really, really cool. And I still use that to this day.
Yeah, it's really helpful. That's another thing that you kind of have to program into your subconscious mind, but the realization or knowing that once you start the countdown, you have to stop no matter what. And once you make that a habit, then it's just automatic. You won't really have to struggle with these vices. You don't have to struggle with the vices too much anymore. Of course, time to time, regression is inevitable. They come and bite you every once in a while. But at the end of the day, you're going to be consistently rejecting them. Thank you a lot for doing this and taking the time to hop back on a call. And I'm really
Yeah.
glad that you're doing well.
Yeah. Thanks. It gives me flashbacks of Sunday calls.
Yeah, right. I know, me too. I was getting
Yeah.
flashbacks of when I would walk down to the beach and take all of our
Yeah.
calls on Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. Ultimately, that was all truthful and honest. And that's how I wanted to keep it. Would definitely want to see you successful. Already are. Want to see you more
Thank you.
successful. So any little thing that could do to help, definitely.